I, 38 male, a project manager who learned early how to keep receipts and later learned why that matters, was standing in my own kitchen when my wife said it. Calm. Practice. Like she'd rehearsed it on the drive home. I'm giving you one last chance to be the husband I deserve. She said it while leaning against the counter, scrolling on her phone, not even looking at me. The pasta water was boiling over. The smoke alarm chirped once and went quiet again. Ordinary moment. That's how these things always start. I turned the stove off, wiped my hands on a towel, and said, "Thank you for that." She finally looked up, smiled. That smile meant she thought she'd won something. For years, everything had been framed as my failure. I didn't listen enough. I didn't earn enough, even though I paid the mortgage. I didn't support her dreams, even though I funded them. I didn't show up, even when I rearranged my entire life around her moods. She kept a running scoreboard in her head. I never got to see it, but I always lost. She launched into the usual list. Therapy buzzwords, social media phrases, things she'd picked up from friends who had never been married but loved to diagnose one. "You've been emotionally unavailable," she said. "You don't meet my standards anymore. I shouldn't have to beg for bare minimum effort." Bare minimum. That phrase again. It was her favorite. A magic eraser that wiped out everything I actually did. I nodded. Let her talk. I'd learned silence drove her crazier than arguing. What she didn't know was that the envelope was already in my bag. Not metaphorical. Physical. Manila, heavy with copies. I'd had it ready for months. Not because I was impulsive. Because I'm methodical. This wasn't the first ultimatum. Just the first one she thought had teeth. She had a habit of escalating when she felt bored or insecure. Last year it was, "Maybe we should take a break." The year before, "My friends think you don't challenge me." Once, during an argument, she casually said, "If we divorced, I'd take you for everything." She laughed after. I didn't. That sentence stayed with me. Not because I was afraid. Because I realized something fundamental. She didn't see us as partners. She saw me as a resource. The entitlement showed up in small ways first. She forgot her wallet at dinners. She volunteered my time without asking. She told her friends details about my finances, my childhood, my parents' mistakes, like they were her stories to tell. Then it got bigger. She quit her job without discussing it. Said she needed to find herself. That finding yourself period somehow included expensive retreats, a personal coach, and long lunches that ran suspiciously late. When I'd ask questions, she accused me of control. She once told me, straight-faced, that my discomfort was proof I needed therapy. I did go to therapy. Alone. That's where I stopped trying to win arguments and started documenting patterns. Dates, statements, texts, financial transfers, screenshots, not for revenge, for clarity. The more I wrote down, the clearer it became. This wasn't miscommunication. This was strategy. She liked power. Ultimatums were her favorite weapon. So when she said one last chance, I heard what she really meant. One last chance for me to submit. I reached into my bag, pulled out the envelope, and set it gently on the counter between us, like a peace offering. Her eyes flicked to it. Curious. Still confident. "What's that?" she asked. "Something I prepared," I said, "after your last talk." She opened it. The silence stretched. Her face shifted slowly as she read the first page. Then the second. Then the caption under the attached checklist. Petition for dissolution of marriage. No fault. Properly drafted. Filed but not yet served. Her voice came out thinner than usual. "Is this a joke?" "No," I said. "This is me accepting your offer." She laughed once, sharp. "You can't just decide that." "I already did," I said, "months ago." That was the moment the script broke. And when her entitlement lost its footing, it didn't disappear. It mutated. She slid the papers back toward me like they were contaminated. "You think this scares me? I'll call my lawyer tomorrow. I'll take half. Maybe more. You'll regret this." I met her eyes. Calm. Steady. "That's why everything's documented," I said, "and why this is happening on my timeline, not yours." Her phone was already in her hand, fingers flying, probably texting one of her friends. The same friends who told her she deserved better. The same friends who'd never once asked what she'd given. She stood up straighter, like she was gearing up for war. She had no idea I'd already mapped the battlefield, and that her one last chance wasn't for me at all. It was the last dignified exit she was ever going to get. The next morning, she acted like none of it had happened. That should have been my first clue that she was planning something. She made coffee, asked if I wanted eggs, told me she had a busy day and would be out late. The divorce papers said exactly where she left them on the counter, untouched, like ignoring them might reverse time. This was her reset move. Pretend normal. Reassert control by behaving like the authority again. I played along, not because I was confused, because I wanted to see which version of her showed up next. By noon, my phone started lighting up. First, her mother, then her sister, then a number I didn't have saved but recognized from one of her group chats. No messages, just calls. Rapid, aggressive, coordinated. She was activating her network. She came home that evening with a performance ready. Red eyes, shaky breath. She didn't look at me when she spoke. I talked to my family. She said, "They're worried about you." "Not us. Me." She explained, slowly, like she was talking to a child, that I was having a stress reaction, that my job had made me cold, that my inability to meet her needs had caused me to spiral into avoidant behavior. She said this with concern. That was the trick. Entitlement wrapped in care. "I think we should pause all this legal talk," she said. "You should move out for a bit. Clear your head. Give me space to feel safe." There it was. She wanted me out of the house. Voluntarily. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I asked one question. "Are you asking me to leave the marital home?" She hesitated. "I'm saying it would be healthier." I nodded. "I'm not doing that." Her tone shifted. "Harder now. Then you're forcing me to protect myself." That night, she tried the first dirty trick. I woke up at 2:13 a.m. to the sound of drawers opening. The bedroom light was on. She was on her phone, whispering, "What are you doing?" I asked. She jumped, then recovered instantly. "I don't feel safe sleeping next to you." That sentence, carefully chosen. I sat up. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm scared," she said louder now, "and I don't know what you're capable of." I grabbed my phone and turned on the camera. Not dramatic, just factual. "I'm recording this," I said, "for clarity." She froze, then exploded. "How dare you?" she shouted. "You're threatening me now?" "No," I said. "I'm documenting." She stormed out of the room, slammed the door. I heard her pacing in the living room, talking on the phone again. The next day, I consulted my attorney. Not because I was panicking, because this was exactly the escalation we discussed months earlier. In the U.S., allegations don't need to be proven immediately to cause damage. Temporary orders can be granted fast. The smartest move is prevention, not reaction. I moved my essentials into a locked office room. Installed cameras in common areas, legally, with visible notice. Not hidden, not secret, transparent. When she saw the cameras, she laughed. "You think this makes you look innocent?" "No," I said. "It makes the truth boring." That's when she switched tactics. She went after my reputation. She told mutual friends I was emotionally abusive, that I'd been controlling her finances, despite joint accounts she drained regularly. She told my father I was unstable, told my mother she was afraid for her life. My parents called me in a panic. I didn't defend myself emotionally. I sent them documents, bank statements, text logs, therapy invoices I paid for when she refused to go. Facts don't shout. They wait. Then came the legal ambush. One afternoon, while I was at work, she filed for a temporary protective order, claimed I'd intimidated her. No physical harm alleged, just fear. This is where entitlement meets bureaucracy. I wasn't removed from the home because the judge required evidence. She had none. No witnesses. No prior reports. The cameras worked against her. The order was denied. She came home furious. "You humiliated me," she said. "Do you know how that looks?" I looked at her and finally said it. "You tried to erase me." She scoffed. "You think this is over?" "No," I said. "I think this is where you realize you're not in control." Her eyes hardened. That's when I knew she'd stop pretending. If she couldn't win by sympathy, she'd try force. And if force didn't work, she'd try theft. I had already locked down every account she'd ever touched. She just didn't know it yet. The morning she realized the money was gone, controlled, not vanished, was the first time I saw genuine panic on her face. She stood in the doorway of my office, phone in hand, knuckles white. The card was declined. I didn't look up from my laptop. "Which one?" "All of them," she snapped. "Joint checking, savings, even the credit line." I swiveled my chair slowly. Not dramatic, just deliberate. "I froze the joint accounts," I said. "Legally, with notice. You still have access to your personal account. The one I stopped funding 3 months ago." Her mouth opened, then closed. She hadn't noticed. That was the part that hurt her pride the most. "You can't do that," she said. "That's financial abuse." "No," I said. "That's separation of assets pending dissolution. My attorney advised it. Yours will confirm." She lunged to the desk, grabbed a stack of papers. "You think you're smarter than me? I'll clean you out in court." I leaned back. "You already tried." That's when I slid a folder across the desk. Not the divorce papers. A different set. A timeline. Every withdrawal. Every unexplained transfer. Screenshots of messages where she told her friends, "It's fine, it's our money." Receipts for trips she said were work events. A copy of a lease she secretly co-signed for a friend using our joint credit line. Her breathing changed as she flipped pages. "What is this?" she whispered. "Discovery," I said. "Preliminary." I stopped short of forensic accounting. Didn't want to be unfair. She slammed the folder shut. "You're spying on me." "I'm paying attention," I said. She switched again. Tears. Fast this time. "I gave you everything. I supported you when you were nothing." I shook my head. "You moved in after my promotion. Let's not rewrite history." She stood there, calculating. I could see it. This was chess to her. She just realized she was playing checkers. That afternoon, her lawyer finally called mine. Tone changed quickly when the documents were shared. By evening, she tried a new dirty trick. She posted, not directly, never directly, a vague, emotionally loaded message about escaping a toxic situation and choosing courage over comfort. No names, just enough for speculation. Friends messaged me, some supportive, some cautious, some fishing. I replied to none. Instead, my attorney filed a motion. Formal discovery, subpoenas, temporary orders preventing asset dissipation, a request for exclusive use of the home based on documented harassment attempts. Here's the part entitlement doesn't prepare you for: process. Court doesn't care about vibes. It cares about evidence, timelines, and credibility. At the first hearing, she showed up confident, designer outfit, practiced tears. Her lawyer spoke about emotional distress and power imbalance. Then my attorney spoke. We didn't attack her character. We let her actions speak. The judge asked her why she'd attempted a protective order without evidence, asked about the unapproved financial transactions, asked why she quit her job without discussion, then demanded support beyond statutory guidelines. She answered emotionally, not precisely. Judges noticed that. Temporary rulings came down fast. No spousal support beyond a short transitional period. Exclusive use of the home to me. Mandatory mediation. Financial injunctions. She walked out pale. Furious. Cornered. That night, she tried to negotiate. "I'll be reasonable," she said. "We can do this quietly." I looked at her. Really looked. "You had months to do that." She lowered her voice. "What do you want?" "I want this done cleanly," I said. "And I want you to stop trying to punish me for not obeying you." Her face twisted. "You think you're teaching me a lesson?" "No," I said. "I'm ending one." The final dirty trick, came a week later. She moved items out of the house while I was at work. Not shared items. Things that mattered to me. Personal documents. Family heirlooms. Sentimental objects she knew I couldn't replace. She left a note. Consider it compensation. That crossed the last line. My attorney filed an emergency motion. Theft of marital property. Violation of temporary orders. The police didn't arrest her. That's not how this works. But they documented, retrieved items, filed a report. That report changed everything. Because now, it wasn't just a divorce. It was a pattern. And patterns are hard to explain away with tears. She stopped posting after that. Stopped calling. Stopped pretending she had leverage. The mediation date was set. And this time, she walked in knowing exactly how much power she'd lost. She just didn't know how much more was about to slip through her fingers. Mediation lasted 6 hours. No shouting. No tears. Just a long table, 2 attorneys, a neutral mediator, and the slow collapse of fantasy she'd been living in for years. She came in guarded, quiet. That alone told me everything. The woman who once spoke in ultimatums was now choosing her words like they cost money. The mediator laid out the framework. Asset division under state law. No-fault divorce. Short-term transitional support only, based on her voluntary unemployment. No claim to my premarital assets. No claim to my retirement contributions before marriage. No leverage from social narratives. Just math. She tried once. I sacrificed my career for this marriage, she said. The mediator asked, was that a joint decision? Silence. Her attorney cleared his throat. We won't be pursuing that angle. That was the moment, the exact moment she realized no. One in the room was on her side. Not because she was a woman, not because she was emotional, but because she'd overplayed every hand she'd ever been dealt. Then came the surprise she didn't see coming. My attorney slid over one final document, a settlement addendum. It outlined my agreement not to pursue reimbursement for misused marital funds, not to seek sanctions for the false protective order attempt, not to escalate the theft incident into a civil claim. In exchange, she waived any future spousal support claims, signed a non-disparagement clause, agreed to vacate the house within 30 days, and acknowledged in writing that the divorce was initiated mutually, without abuse or coercion. The mediator raised an eyebrow. This is generous. I spoke for the first time in hours. It's clean. My wife stared at the paper like it was written in another language. You just let it go? She asked. After everything? I nodded. I don't need revenge to move forward. That was the part that finally broke her. Not yelling. Not punishment. Choice. She signed. The divorce was finalized 90 days later. Exactly on schedule. No appeals. No drama. No last-minute stunts. She moved out quietly. No goodbye. No apology. Just absence. Mutual friends drifted away on their own. Some reached out later, awkward, realizing they believed a version of events that didn't survive contact with reality. I kept the house. My routines. My peace. Here's the thing people don't talk about. Entitlement doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks confident, reasonable, concerned. Sometimes it hands you an ultimatum and assumes you'll panic. Sometimes the strongest response isn't anger. It's preparation. When she said one last chance, she thought she was offering mercy. She wasn't. She was standing at the edge of the last moment, where walking away could have been quiet. I didn't destroy her life. I didn't have to. I just stopped letting her use mine.